Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Oh, Rob. Jim, I'm a traffic engineer and sort of represent the perspective of the safety from the street system perspective, and I appreciate your emphasis on identifying hazards and mitigating hazards as being the fundamental way that you're going to really improve safety performance. And I have a question about the use of incident data as a way to screen for identifying potential hazards. On the roadway side, we use incident data, crash data, to screen our system, and we're looking for locations where we see safety performance that would be out of the norm. So for the audience, so if we have a set of intersections that are pretty much the same, if in that set of intersections we have one or two that have statistically different safety performance in terms of incidents or crashes, then we're going to use that screening tool to say, okay, we may have a problem here. Let's focus attention here and see if we have, hazards that we can identify and mitigate there. Is there, in the transit side, is there a use of incident data in a similar way, and how would that happen? Because I haven't seen any safety performance or incident data really recorded here as a part of the research so far.
Yes, sir. Incident data on the transit side of the house is generally referred to as safety data acquisition. Safety data acquisition is events that occur on your agency. Near misses, collisions, fatalities. That data, by regulation, is mandated through the state of Oregon's program standard that's levied directly to the transit agency to include in their day-to-day activities. It's included in the system safety program plan as a requirement to collect such information. What I would like to see is more pre-incident data collected. I would rather not see a database that says we've had 13 collisions at this grade crossing or this intersection, maybe we need to put a signal light up now. Or we've had some near misses at pedestrian crossings, maybe it's time to put some PET indications in place. On the transit side of the house, I'd rather see the near miss data that talks about slips, trips, and falls, operator, yellow card programs, that we can then relate to a route, a time of day, a specific location, and then focus the small dollars that we have in our budget to be able to put mitigations in place, whether they be designed or operational mitigations. So, in essence, we have to have this by regulation at TriMet. However, the maturity of the program is not, I think, where it ought to be, and it's probably not being used, from what I can tell through my analysis, as a proactive tool that it could be. So it can be a very proactive tool. However, it's only as proactive as the data that's entered into the database, and that, I think, is where the problem lies at this current point. We need more data.
Okay, just a little follow-up question, and I'm not that familiar with the data, so part of it, the challenge, I think, is understanding what that data is and how robust it is, and if there's enough of it to develop statistical tests for it. But is there analysis of that data going on in such a way that you could, just for instance, make a conclusion about this particular route has more incidents per mile than other routes, significantly more? Do we have the data in that kind of form so that those kind of questions could be asked, so that we could look at things that are, say, driver independent of the driver, that may be a part of the roadway system, the bus system, etc.?
Sure. I don't believe my current level of information that I have available to me, I can answer that question directly. I can say when we've had an incident or an event, through ACID we can very quickly pull up any previous incidents or events that have occurred at that location or nearby. We can immediately, through the training department records, determine whether that operator has had any events or incidents in the past. But I can't speak as of this moment whether I can make a query to the database and say the 70 route at the north end how many events have we had. I don't know whether that data exists at this moment.
Just a point of clarification, Jim, you wouldn't know this. The accident incident database is totally clear. You can query it on any which way you want. You can query it by route, you can query it by type of equipment, you can query it for all manner of classification, and then that the data is produced to you as a response for incidents in what you queried for in whatever you were asking about, route or whatever location and so on. So we can create maps, visuals, so absolutely. You know, the extent, maybe get into the question of the safety department staffing in terms of somebody able to do that on a continuing basis. But the database is very powerful in its ability to be queried that way.
Does that integrate non-TriMet crash data for analysis?
No. The accident incident database is TriMet data.
Jim, a little different kind of question if I might. Part of our chart extends a bit beyond safety, but integrated with it. That being Neil's interest in trying to think about the organization's commitment to extraordinary customer service. How do you do it? How do you get there? Not to suggest we aren't there. I'm passing a judgment on that one, but my question to you, I guess, would be, given the number of transit agencies you've seen and worked with, are there thought leaders in the country that we ought to look to for innovative thinking and ideas about the whole process from front to back in terms of selecting employees, developing employees, getting them inspired about their work, allowing them to do as much of their own work as they can so they don't have to rely on somebody in a suit 5 miles away to process the yellow card or whatever that's about. Have you seen thought leaders in the industry?
Yeah, oh, yes, sir. Yeah, there are. I've been fortunate enough to work for a number of individuals that are, truly, I think, at the cutting edge of what we're doing in relationship to operational excellence, to customer excellence, and certainly to safety excellence.
Who are the top 5 in the country?
As far as individuals go, by name?
No, agencies.
By agencies. By agencies. Well, I'd probably go with Charlotte, North Carolina. Right now they've been number one as far as lowest incidents per million miles for 7 years running. They've added a railroad without a previous history of a transit railroad, with minimal, if not no, grade crossing incidents. In 2.5 years now, they've had 1 preventable. They're running some very unique programs. The training department is part and parcel with the safety department. Training's not separate from safety. They've really sort of broken the mold on the configuration of support to operations. So I'd put that organization right up at the top. And as far as rail system safety, I don't think anybody could probably compare any more favorably than the BART system in Oakland, California. BART is doing wonderful things, and their number of preventables versus non-preventables per passenger trip is the best in the country for rail. And there are more, but those are 2 that are right there.
I have a question regarding kind of inspired from Shirley's about one of the findings, I believe, was the discrepancy between bus stop guidelines, bus stop environment, and then the environment that actually exists. And is that was kind of a temporal snapshot based on your consultancy, but is that a one-time, are you looking to that as a one-time audit? Because Shirley mentioned, the context changes around bus stops, and so is that like a regular audit that you would be suggesting?
Well, it is something that should be continuous. First of all, as has either been completely performed by the training department, an assessment of some 81 or so of the routes to include the stops and comparing the stops in relationship to their hazards. Another step would be to compare those stops in relationship to what the stops guidelines require. This is a extremely unique operating environment, the confluence of the bike riding public versus the walking community. I've just not seen as eclectic a riding public as you have here. The hazards that are road-based hazards are unbelievable and very unique and not fully documented and fully incorporated, nor probably could it be fully incorporated into the stops manual. However, there needs to be a maturing of that manual, and whether that manual is going to be applied in every stop and every location, there should be at least some identification to where the manual currently doesn't apply. Some of those stops just don't fit within that manual, and that there can be reference made to that. There's obviously very unique environments that need to be addressed in the manual. So yes, it was a snapshot of the time that we had. We certainly didn't get to see every stop, we didn't get to see every route, but in comparison of the ones that we did against the manual in general, though the manual is great, it in no way, shape, or form can cover your complete riding environment.
So I want to use that as a transition point to our second item on the agenda, but with this thought, Jim, for you, 5 years from now, you'll be working in a different city for a different agency. Someone like Roger will ask you that same question, who excels? My definition of success will be if your answer is, Portland and TriMet are in a league all by themselves, and it's really attitudinal. Because if you go to Portland and you visit the system, ask any one of them 3,200 employees what drives this organization, you'll get a uniform answer, which is there is nothing more important than safety. They have procedures, they have manuals, they have safety groups, they have training, but what they really have is a broadly held, simply understood piece of their DNA, which is there's nothing more important than safety. A whole bunch of other things flow from that. They have great customer service, they have financial metrics, which are off the charts, but none of those were the drivers. They were the resultant of an attitude that said that we can be exceptional and there is nothing more important than safety. So
I hope so
your
too,
job
sir.
is to help us get there. So
Yes, sir. I look forward to that. Look forward to that.